Hi everyone. So I'm going to show you this name. So here you can see one.privatelink.west0.azmks8.io. This is one app, and here is another app is two. So here you can see this web page with the title AKS Ingress demo and Kubernetes service AKS 1. So now let's check how this being done. So this I have done through kubectl command, not through Azure DevOps pipeline. So we can do that same through some Azure Kubernetes tasks. Okay. So here, let me show you the pods which are running right now. So these are the two pods which are running. These are the deployment which I've done. So kpods, so this I have created the shortcuts in command prompt. So this actually the command it's actually listing kubectl get pods, and this is from the default namespace. And similarly, I have services I have created. KSVC is a shortcut that's for kubectl get service. So you can see AKS Hello World 1 and 2 with the cluster IP service I have deployed, and ports are exposed port are port 80 and port 8080, and the third one is the default cluster IP service when we deploy a Kubernetes cluster by default. So now I have an Ingress service, an Ingress controller. I have control resource I have been created or deployed on it. So this is a command that is actually kubectl get ingress. So here you can see the ingress name is storefront and the ingress class is Nginx internal. So I'm using a private cluster, and this is through a private load balancer frontend IP. So these are the two host name I've added. One.privatelink.west0.aks azmk8 and private 2.privatelink, and the ports, as I said, the first host will be listening on port 80 and second one is on 8080. So that's how it's showing here. So let me expand or describe this ingress. So this actually kubectl describe ingress and from the default namespace. So you can see the ingress service status. So you can see the host name one.privatelink that goes to its backend AKS Hello World 1. This is actually the cluster IP service. So here you can see the cluster IP in Hello World 1 cluster IP 0.142. That's actually connected to a pod AKS 1. So if I take a describe pod, we'll be able to see this IP. So this is the front end, that means the front end IP will resolve to this particular DNS, and when we in the browser, when we browse for one.dns, it resolves to the backend service and then goes to the AKS Hello World 1 pod. Similarly for 2. Okay, so let's see the deployment. So this is Hello World 2. So I'm using a kind deployment, and I'm just given a name for the deployment port. So match label. So this is the label we are putting it for this guy. Okay, metadata, labels, etc., and the container. So I'm not using my ACR. I do have an ACR, and I do have an Nginx web page, but I'm not using here. This is actually be pulled from the Microsoft owned container registry, and the image and name and versions, and including the tags I have added here. And this too is exposing in the port 80 itself, but whereas in the service I'm creating a cluster IP service, and I'm calling the same, this label here to, you can see the here it is calling the same service cluster IP, and for the 8080. So why I have chosen 8080? Because my hello one is there with port 80. So for a load balancer, you can't create rule for a two DNS on the same port number. So I have to add a different port number. So this is the deployment for these two ports and two cluster IPs. And now coming to the Ingress service. So this is the Ingress manifest. So starts with the API version so that you can refer from the Kubernetes docs, and I'm just giving a friend name storefront. That's anything you can give, and I'm adding a couple of annotations here. SSL redirect false, even though if you give HTTPS it will go to HTTP, and this actually not required. You can remove this line, it's not required, but this is very much required. Kubernetes redirect target is root. That means it'll check for the root. Based on this root changes, Kubernetes will route the traffic to the backend pod. I mean, sorry, the Kubernetes load balancer will route the traffic to the pod. So here are the two hosts, host 1 and host 2 with two host names. And here you can see path is slash, I mean the root. So there are path-based routing. Different types of load balancing rules are available in Azure. So I'm using the path-based routing. Okay. So yeah, here you can see port 80 and port. This is 8080. So through kubectl apply command, I have deployed it, and in the Azure portal, let me show you the portal. So you can see two load balancer. One is a public load balancer because this is a test environment. I don't have any firewall at the moment. So I'm not using a user defined route outbound type. I'm using a load balancer. Okay, that's why I have a public load balancer. That's for the Kubernetes egress. And the other one you can see Kubernetes internal. So that's actually an internal load balancer deployed through a custom resource configuration for Azure. So how that's being done? This is through this manifest. So here you can see API version app routing. This is actually a custom resource. So in Kubernetes documentation, if you go to custom resource, there's a manifest how we can deploy some custom resource plugins, etc. So this is actually available in Microsoft documentation. So through this, what we're going to do is it'll be a Nginx internal a private load balancer. So how it has been happening, how it's been achieved, this is actually the load balancer annotation. So this particular manifest helps us to get deployed a private load balancer. On top of that, we need to add a particular DNS zone application routing add-on. And so what DNS, so there is a link. So let me open the link for you. Based on this documentation, I have a private DNS already. I've added the attach a private DNS zone with the AKS cluster. So configure Nginx Ingress controls support Azure private DNS zone with application add-on. So I have already enabled the application add-on through Terraform, and here is one more command. I'm creating a private DNS zone that's already have created, and I have linked with my VNet, and Azure AKS app routing zone add. So with the zone ID, you need to add it. So what's happening here is when I create an Ingress service, this service, it has this DNS, and there'll be a private front-end IP for the load balancer. So if I run this command, you can see Nginx internal. All right. So this Ingress Nginx controller having a front-end IP of our private load balancer. Okay, and when we add this Ingress service through different host name, what happens here is AKS automatically add the DNS record for us, so we don't need to manage it. It automatically add the DNS records. So let me show you here. This is my load balancer. This is my DNS record which has been added with as an add-on DNS routing. I mean the web app routing. So if I go to the DNS records, you can see these text records, two text records, and two error records. So you can see error record. So what does it mean? If you click on edit, you can see the DNS. It's automatically added by the AKS cluster. So we don't need to manage it. So this is how it's going to run. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you. Uh, this is how we can set up an internal Nginx controller with two different apps. All right. Thank you.